College is more expensive than ever before, and paying off your student loans is only getting harder. Today, 45 million Americans are carrying more than $1.7 trillion in student debt collectively, according to the Federal Reserve. And ultimately, Americans are fed up with their financial burdens. A new survey out from Bankrate found that nearly 1 in 5 adults say student loan debt will have a major influence over their vote in the upcoming 2024 presidential election. For more on the report, I'm joined by Sarah Foster, analyst at Bankrate. And Sarah, we were just talking in the break how this has been a bit confusing for the average consumer. Biden's student debt program, it's had some stops, it's had some starts. How much has that played into where voters stand today?
I think it's absolutely impacting how they're feeling about their student loan debt. So we saw that about 3 in 10 borrowers currently don't know whether they qualify for forgiveness. I think you can directly attribute that to all the back and forth. So we've seen that historically speaking, President Biden has forgiven more student loan debt in history, but that's really only impacting about 1 in 10 borrowers currently. In our data, they say that at least a portion of their debt has been forgiven. Everybody else, they don't really know what help is out there for them.
Right, and we saw the Supreme Court reject his sweeping student loan forgiveness plan last year, but he is moving with the Plan B program. How does this compare to the original? Do you expect similar hurdles in terms of approval?
We do expect similar hurdles. So Plan B is slightly different in that it's geared towards helping Americans who've been struggling with their debt for long periods of time. So not only are borrowers struggling with giant large balances, it's also those Americans who've been paying down debt for 20 years. That's where the Plan B comes in. It's going to help Americans who have more interest than the initial debt that they've borrowed. But we're expecting it to really meet kind of those same hurdles here. Something that I do think is important, though, is that income-driven repayment plan, the SAVE plan. That's expected to really survive those legal challenges. So if borrowers are looking for help, that could be a really good way to look into reducing your monthly payments.
And you had the chance to talk to borrowers for this report. Was there a perception that Biden and therefore the federal government is doing enough to combat the student loan crisis? And if not, what more do Americans want to see there?
So interestingly enough, we polled Americans last year on how they're feeling about whether the federal government has done enough to financially help them. About half of borrowers said no, they haven't done enough. That's fallen to about 35% today. So I think what's happening here is borrowers are recognizing that the administration is trying to help them. But of course, it's really like that rescue ladder that's being lowered into the water to help them when they're drowning in debt. And then as soon as they think it's there for them, it's yanked away. Borrowers talk to me about how they feel like it's just this life sentence of debt. They would really like to see ways to help them get out of debt if they've been in it for a long time. And of course, they're not hopeful that by the time they pay off their balances, that help will come for them.
And to that point, you said in the report that borrowers delay saving for retirement and emergencies, buying homes, or even getting married and having children. What would be your advice to someone who is sacrificing something in their life, whether it be personal or financial, in order to pay that debt or feeling overwhelmed with that debt? Because there are opportunity costs there as well.
Yeah, opportunity costs, it's key. I think it's really important to not just look at how much you're spending on your payment, but the cost of what you're giving up by going aggressively. I was crunching some numbers, earlier today, and I looked at someone who, if you were just investing $200 a month for starting at 22 until the time you're 70, you'd accumulate about $1.2 million in retirement savings. But if you could only invest half of that amount for 20 years, the typical repayment period, you'd miss out on about $500,000. So that opportunity cost is huge. I really recommend borrowers find something that works for their budget. Obviously pay towards that debt. Look into the SAVE plan. It could be really helpful for you. But if you find a payment plan that's really aggressively about paying down that debt and sacrifice things like retirement savings, it could ultimately harm you more than help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a very important topic, and I'm sure we're going to keep talking about it as we head into that November election. Sarah Foster, Bankrate analyst, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.